What's up YouTube? Poji Force here, bringing you a deck profile, a Kaijudo deck profile. And as you may recall from my previous video, I said that I was building a deck for each of the dual civ creatures that came out of Quest for the Gauntlet. Now, I've got lists written for about 3 or 4. I've only got one built, and I'm only close to getting maybe 2 of the others built. So it's gonna be a process. It's gonna take me some time. I may not finish before the next set is released. Really excited about that, by the way. Maybe I'll do a discussion video about what they've announced so far. It's not a lot, but it's pretty exciting. So what I have for you here today is the Zombie Backhoe deck. This is a black-red deck. All these decks are going to be 2-color. Purple-red deck. All these decks are going to be 2-color. It is a rush deck. Let's just go ahead and tilt the camera down and take a look at that. There we go. It is exactly 40 cards. The focus card of the deck right there, 3 Zombie Backhoe, and our other dual civ card is Lizard Skin Puppet, which is a Slayer. This deck actually runs a fair number of Slayers. We've got 3 of Underworld Stalker, who's very important, and I'll explain why in a minute, and 3 Lurking Skullcutter for a total of 9 Slayers in the deck. Additionally, we also have, let's see, okay, first I feel like I need to explain what Zombie Backhoe does. He is a 3 for 3,000 dual civ creature, and his ability Wrecking Crew, whenever either player discards a card from their hand, you choose one of your creatures, it gets 3,000 additional power, and gains Double Breaker. So the goal here is to swing with a bunch of small things while giving your own guys Double Breaker, so that way they're big and they're difficult to deal with, and hopefully you overwhelm your opponent before they really get a chance to respond. Now we've got really 3 cards that serve that purpose here, and that is Baleful Drummer, Ember Adept, and Blastforge Sweeper. Now Ember Adept and Blastforge Sweeper, both of them have an ability that says you may discard a card to draw additional cards. Ember Adept is discard 1 for draw 1, he's also a protector, and Blastforge Sweeper is discard 1 to draw 2. Blastforge Sweeper not only helps me trigger Zombie Backhoe's ability, but he also helps me refill my hand so that way I can maintain that aggression. Baleful Drummer is probably the ultimate combo with Zombie Backhoe, because you drop him on the 2nd turn, and then you drop Zombie Backhoe on the 3rd turn, immediately attack with Baleful Drummer. You have to discard a card whenever he attacks, you discard a card, Backhoe triggers, Baleful Drummer is suddenly a 7,000 power Double Breaker. And you're doing that as early as turn 3, and if your opponent doesn't come up with a quick answer to Zombie Backhoe or Baleful Drummer, you can ride that to victory. I've done that. This deck is not the best deck ever, but it is really fun, and it is a very interesting combo. Me and teammate Eric Doust, we thought of this as soon as we saw Zombie Backhoe at the set release, and we were working on a deck like this together. We kind of branched off. He's got his build, I've got mine. But it is built around the same principal goal. My build is running 3 Underworld Stalker. His isn't, simply because he doesn't have it. He probably would run it if he had it, because that card is such an annoyance to anyone playing against it. Unless they play Nature and they can throw him into your mana zone, he is such a difficult card to permanently get rid of. Because we have Baleful Drummer, Ember Adept, and Blastforge Sweeper, any one of those we can discard Underworld Stalker, and then with these 2 you draw more cards. And it doesn't really hurt you, because you can play him from your discard pile. So, and then he is also a Slayer, so, and at that point you can, if you get the 4 mana and you got Baleful Drummer and Zombie Backhoe, you can just discard off the top of your deck with Baleful Drummer and just summon Underworld Stalker. It's not a big deal. You can play cards with no hand. It's pretty awesome. Forsaken Puppet is really just there to be a cheap card. The ideal progression is Forsaken Puppet, Baleful Drummer, Zombie Backhoe. I don't think I've ever seen it happen. But it is there for that purpose. Most times Forsaken Puppet is just mana bait. So, but if we ever see a really solid, another really solid 2-drop Darkness creature, or another really solid, or a really solid 1-drop fire creature, then it'll go in over Forsaken Puppet. For now, Forsaken Puppet is there. The evolutions in the deck are Torhelm, Stomper Elite, and Restless Conflagration. Torhelm is really nice because he's 2 for big, and he can attack, untap the turn he enters play. So he's actually kind of a removal card. He's a really aggressive evolution, and then if your opponent ever targets him, you break a shield, so it helps you keep that aggression. Restless Conflagration is just an amazing card. 4 for 6,000 double. 4 for 6,000 double breaker. Unleash. Your opponent has to banish a blocker. If you evolve it off of Torhelm, you can unleash twice effectively. So, banishing 2 blockers over a period of 2 turns. Just keeping blockers off the field. This taps blockers. Thundering Clap banishes blockers. This one I'm basically saving for Magistrate Jazuri. Everything else, this can take care of it, this can take care of it. If I get Krakus out, and I have either Torhelm or Restless Conflagration out, my opponent simply cannot play a blocker if it's not Jazuri. That's just what it comes down to. These will kill pretty much any commonly played blocker that is not Magistrate Jazuri. Torhelm may not be able to kill Sky Shark, but Restless can. And then I have Slayers for everything else too. I've got Lurking Skullcutter, Slayer, Lizard Skin Puppet, Slayer, and Dual Civ, which is important for these evolutions. I have 6 2-drop fire cards for Torhelm and Restless Conflagration. I haven't talked about the Shield Blast creatures yet. Warchief Kyo and Horror Box. Warchief Kyo, I admit when this card first came out I wasn't a fan, but I started really thinking about the potential of this card, making any creature on your side of the field fight an opponent's creature. I have a 2 for 5. So it's like, oh, that Panopter's being a pain in my ass. Warchief Kyo, fight Torhelm. Panopter and Torhelm fight, Torhelm wins. GG. Conflagration, or shoot, have it fight any of my Slayers. Well, not Lurking Skullcutter because he has to attack, but Underworld Stalker, Lizard Skin Puppet. Underworld Stalker just comes back out. I effectively turned Underworld Stalker into a kill spell because Warchief Kyo Shield Blasted. Probably wouldn't play him from my hand, but he's really cool. I really like him. And that old Gonza art, yo, I'm a fan. I'm a fan now. I admit, I wasn't when it first came out, but I'm a fan now. The other Shield Blast, 2 of Horror Box. I'm a real fan of this card's effect, Shield Blast, to mill the top 2 cards of my opponent's deck. It's a lot of decks nowadays are playing a lot closer to 40, and with how aggressive this deck is, and my opponent's being forced to usually chump block a whole lot just to keep themselves alive. The Horror Box is just a way to, because I've played games that have gotten really, really close to my opponent decking out. Horror Box for that mill. It is also a Shield Blast creature. If you notice, the only spell in the deck is Thundering Clap. Whenever I can play a creature, if I can keep that board aggression, I'd do it if I can. Ideally, I would probably take out a Horror Box for a 3rd Warchief Kyo, but I currently only own 2. This also helps me with my my fire dark spread, because as you can see it's more leaning towards fire, and while that's necessary because all my evolutions are fire, I do need that dark mana if I want to play the Forsaken Puppet or the Underworld Stalker or the Baleful Drummer or the Dual Civ creatures. That darkness mana is important. So, and you may be wondering why I am not running Flame Augur, and the reasoning behind that is quite simply, Flame Augur is effectively 2 cards out of my hand at once. The spell itself and whatever I have to discard to activate it. If I'm caught with no hand, which is very common with this deck, Flame Augur is completely useless to me. And while I understand that is another potential trigger for Zombie Backhoe, I look at what's 7,000 or less, and I realize that Tornado Flame could probably do the job just as well without the self-sacrifice. And Warchief Kyo and Horror Box, I don't feel the need for Flame Augur. I understand a lot of people really like it because it is a fire Shield Blast, 5 for 7. But the self-discard, I'm between Baleful Drummer, Ember Adept, and Blastforge Sweeper, I really feel like I have enough of that. I feel like there's enough of it there for Zombie Backhoe. Baleful Drummer especially, because he does it every turn. So, that's the deck, guys. Let me know what you think. In playtesting, The Sky Shark deck does give it a lot of trouble, but it can overcome it if it gets a good hand, and if you play smart. If you play smart and you get a good hand, you can beat the Sky Shark deck. At least my build of it, which is lacking to Regent Sasha, which is a big deal, but it can beat, okay, let's put it this way. It'll beat the subpar Regent Sasha decks. This deck actually can also beat the Battlebred Defender deck. We have played it against Battlebred Defender, and it wins a majority of its games. Underworld Stalker is just such a huge pain, and when the card they're relying on to combo into is a blocker, and their evolutions are infinitely more expensive than yours, it's a pretty big deal. But I guess that's everything, guys. Again, 40 cards. Fire, Dark, Zombie Backhoe, Rush, Slayers, discarding Self to be more powerful. It's kind of interesting. I'd like to come up with a better name than that. We need some more flashy names around here. Haven't had a very interesting deck name in a while. So that's the deck. Like, favorite, subscribe if you enjoyed. More decks to come in the future, as well as the next episode of Pick One, Pack One, so stay tuned for that. And as always, guys, I will see you later.